All right. Well, Monza, I had a lot of fun with you today. I always enjoy working with Dalmatians. This is Monza, and this is Monza's romantic success. Can you give me a pound it? Can you pound it? Pound it. Actually, it's just paw for him. All right, so in this video, I want to just kind of summarize what we covered in the session. He is a pocket Dalmatian. He's just still growing. And like I said in the other video, he had just kind of a negative experience. And after that, I think he's got a lot of the stress hormone in his blood. And I think it's just kind of amplified a lot of these issues. So the video above talks about how we can use counter conditioning to help a dog get over fears of different things. So I want you to make a list of all the things that he has reacted to outside and then try to recreate that situation over and over. Monza, everybody. And help him pit stop. Or what is it? I was right, okay. Pit stop. So I like using fun command words. And so the more that we can help him get over all these individual sounds, eventually, if you follow the instructions we did above, again, first we provide the stimulus, and then after a while, the stimulus comes after, or the treat comes after the stimulus. And after a while, he's just going to hear a sound outside and associate, that means I'm about to get a treat, nothing to bark at here. Matter of fact, I'm actually just going to chill and enjoy it. Pit stop. He is a character. Okay, so we started off by talking about exercise. The Guardians actually have a scooter, and they let him run along with them. But I would get in a habit of get a harness. If you want to get the one that I have that's designed specifically for pulling, let me know and I can send you a link to it. But basically, there's a special type of harness. You don't want to ever have him pulling with a collar that can collapse their trachea. And a regular harness is not going to be give it the support that we'd like. So I call it dog skiing. I put on rollerblades and have my dog pull me from Santa Monica to Venice a couple times on the beach, and he's wiped out. Pit stop. And so if we're going to do the counter conditioning exercise. Exercising him beforehand is a great way to go about doing that. Because that way we take off that top level of energy. It just puts him in a more social or amicable mood. Sit. Only say the command word once, and if he doesn't comply, I don't repeat, I don't punish him, he just doesn't get the reward. I got a handful full of treats, but he didn't do what I wanted him to do, so he's not getting rewarded. If I say it over and over again, then I just water down my response, then there's no reason to listen to me because what's the consequence? There's no teeth to it. So in this case, as a behaviorist, I don't like using punishment. I just like using a situation you either get rewarded or nothing happens. And after a while, well, I'd rather get rewarded than nothing happens. So right there, that's going to be an example of passive training. Pit stop. He went to the place. I didn't tell him to, and he sat down and he got the reward. Passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily, organically offer you the behavior. Pit stop, and then just recognizing and rewarding it. Now remember, dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward the dog for them to have the ability to make the connection. And so if he sits down, you want to pet him and say sit. If he comes to you, you want to pet him and say come. If he brings you a toy, name all your individual toys. Come up with a word that needs to drink water. I know he knows how to drink water, fine, but it's nice to be able to cue that command, cue it on command. So call it, Stella or champagne or pit stop, whatever it is. And so every time he takes a drink of water, you say agua. Well, then later on, if you're going on a trip or something, you can cue and tell him agua, and he knows what you mean. Doesn't mean he's going to necessarily do it, but at least he understands. I also do the same thing, hey buddy, for feeding. I say grub, chow, feast, and lasagna. A lot of my clients use the name of their favorite dish or the name of their favorite restaurant. So for about 2 to 3 months, every time he takes his first bite of food, maybe we call it bangers or whatever the word is that we want to use. And so after a while, when he hears the word bangers, that means I get to eat. Now we also, another one that you can do is what we call scent games. Hey buddy, let's not eat the plastic bag, please. That's Blade. And it's great when you have a dog that gets along with a cat, especially when the cat was here first, and that's not always the case. All right, so let's do this here. Blade will hook you up. Blade, right here. There you go. All right, and he's trying to accost my hand. So I can do a version of leave it, which is one of the exercises I taught the Guardians. So he's trying to take. I'm not giving him any instructions. As soon as he disengages, I'm going to give him the treat that's in my other hand. Now, I didn't say leave it because leave it is leave it on the ground, and that was kind of a little friendly fire. I think you heard the cat, and that distracted him a little bit. Oh, yeah, the cat said, no, buddy. No means no. You're going to have to listen to that. All right, so passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you the behavior on his own. Every time he comes here, say pit stop. Every time he pees, come up with a word that means to urinate, or and I use the same word for urinate and defecate. So the idea is we come up with a vocabulary. Every time my dog gets in the car, I say the word car. Every time we get off the car, I say departure. And so then I have that vocabulary. So it's just a really easy way for you to do it. You can teach him to grumble if he grumbles like Quest does. All right, the other thing we are, pit stop, is petting with a purpose. So if he's nudging my arm and he wants this, he wants a treat, what I might say is, so he's trying to tell me, he's trying to take the treat or tell me I want the treat. Down, down. Gotta hurry up because Spike, there we go, down. Because somebody's trying to get in my treat pouch over here behind me. Yeah, that would be you. All right, so for petting with a purpose is when he is directing you. If he comes up and nudges you, he paws at you, he barks at you, any of those things, he's telling me what to do. If I listen to him and I pet him, then I'm telling him, yes, you are the boss of me, and that can lead him to some confusion. A lot of dogs get confused into thinking their job is to protect or be possessive of their humans due to a lack of rules and structure. And he has a couple of rules, but I think, and his guardian, when you have one dog, you can kind of get away with the lack of rules, but he just had this negative experience, and I think that incorporating some rules and keeping them in place for a minimum of 66 days, but the other part of the sentence I always say, or as long as the problem is still going on. So until he stops that twitchiness behavior, you should keep him off of the furniture, is one of the first rules we talked about. Before we get into the rules, let me wrap up petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose, if he tells me what to do, kisses. So that's passive training. So if he's demanding attention of me, I give him a counter order, tell him to sit. If he's already sitting, I ask him to lay down. And when he does it, then he gets rewarded. And I say down. So remember, every time you give a treat, the treat goes in the mouth first and the command word immediately after. The cat is being crafty, wants to go in there. All right, so for petting with a purpose, when the dog tells you what to do, nothing happens. But if you tell the dog what to do, it gets rewarded. And we're going to say just the word sit, not good sit, not the dog's name, just sit. And so if he's already sitting, like I said, ask him to lay down. Monza, here, buddy. That's trying to distract the cat. Pit stop. So, so he just has to do something to change his state. And after a while, what will happen is the dog will start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for attention or laying down or whatever it is. So when he does that, make sure you do recognize, reward him. Otherwise, he will go, come. That's passive training. I didn't ask him to come. He came on his own. Down. I didn't ask him to lay down. He did it. Most of us train our dogs to misbehave because when they misbehave, they get our attention immediately. He starts barking at the window. We tell him to shush. He chews the carpet or the table. We say shush. I just see there's like a copious amount of tennis balls underneath the cabinet over there. But when he does the things we don't want, we're immediately on him. But he comes and sits in front of us, we ignore it. He lays down, we ignore it. Well, this trains the dogs to misbehave. So what we want to do instead is start rewarding desired actions and behaviors or redirecting him into them. So now, even if you want to pet your dog, you would still tell the dog sit before you pet it or lay down or whatever it is. Now, I have a watchword for this. I call it paycheck. Hey, what's going on, Blade? Paycheck just means I suspect you may have forgotten to pet with a purpose. So if you come in the room, see somebody's petting Monza and he's standing up, we say paycheck. That person stops petting him, tells him to sit or lay down or do something, then pets him under the chin whenever possible and says whatever the command word is, and then explains to the other person, I did it right, you missed it, blah, blah, blah. But if you argue about it, the dog's like, oh, you're on one page, he's on one page, I can be on my own page too. So the more we pet with a purpose, after a while, like I said, they'll prepay for it. And after a while, what will happen is when you pet, every time you pet your dog, it increases the dog's respect for you as an authority figure because it's not telling you anymore, it's asking you. Number two, it boosts the dog's self-esteem because he's earning the affection through something he does proactively or on demand, as opposed to getting petted for no reason. And also it helps him practice sitting. Sitting is not hard for most dogs to do, but more advanced situations, it is harder for them to do, like on walks or when there's other dogs nearby or whatever it is. So helping him practice in an easy capacity can help him demonstrate the behavior in a more challenging situation. Now, the Guardian has been using a harness. I recommended using a martingale collar, which we have on. I went over my 5 rules for a structured walk and how to apply the special twist the leash. For the twist the leash, make sure you put the loop on his spine. Make sure the leash goes around around the chest behind both front legs, and always go through the loop towards the head, never go towards the butt. And then keep it a short leash. If you need the reminder of the short rules, 5 rules for structured walk, message me. I have videos where I can share this with you. Let me see. All right, so petting with a purpose and passive training are two of the most important activities because we just do them so often. And if we are constantly rewarding our dog for those desired actions and behaviors, they'll start offering them more and more often. Now, we also talked about a number of rules, and for dogs, they need to see us acting like leaders through our actions. If you're yelling at the dog as loud as your voice will allow you, or you silently walk over and to the dog, silently walking over is much more powerful because you're burning energy to walk over there more so than you are if you're verbalizing. So one of the rules I suggest is not letting him on the furniture, which is kind of a rule, but he's kind of now at this point can kind of get up when he more and more frequently. It's confusing for dogs when we're instituting rules if we kind of let them violate the rule. They really need to have that rule consistent for a period of time before they can start kind of getting a habit or form a behavior pattern, which takes about 66 days. But during that 66 days, I can't do the old thing. So every time he gets on the couch, it's going to confuse him and make him want to get back up on the couch. So I'd say at least 2.5 months, he should be along the furniture. After that, if the problems are still going on, continue doing it. When he stops being twitchy, if you want to invite him up, it's with your invitation, and it's a one-time pass. Let me see. Other rules: shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when we're eating. Shouldn't be allowed a human who is eating, or a kitchen when we're preparing food. Shouldn't be allowed a human who's eating. He should have to eat his food after the humans who's feeding him eat something first. Remember, it doesn't have to be a real meal. Something in 5 or more bites, then we give him permission to eat. When he takes his first bite of food, again, use that passive training, call it taco or whatever you want to say. Every time he takes his first bite of food, that's funny. Cat is looking where the sundoe chime has got legs going over here and there. All right, so let me see, other rules: you have to sit before I let you through the door. And this is best done at first at home. So go to the door and say sit once. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away and sit down and wait 1 minute. Then go back to the door and tell him to sit again. If he doesn't sit this time within 3 seconds, I walk away for 2 minutes. Next time I'll walk away for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. I keep doubling the length of time till eventually when I tell him to sit, boom, that butt goes on the ground. And then after a while, he'll just go sit at doors to tell you he'd like to go through them. I would do this when you go to Starbucks, or if you're going into a different room or wherever it is. It's just a nice, polite thing for him to do. Let me see. I'm trying to think of other rules. Those are some good examples, and there might be other things that come into your lifestyle, like if you're in the car, you have to sit before I let you out of the car. And I'm not going to open the door, start the process until you sit. So don't sit there with your hand on the door. Like when we're coming home, I see this a lot of people, they put their hand on the door, sit. I was like, well, you're already halfway there. I'm just going to wait you out. So just put your hand back and look, either you sit or it's not going to happen. And as soon as he does sit, that's when he gets the reward. So we're not going to repeat it multiple times. We're not going to correct or punish him. So my option is I do what the human wants and I get a reward. If I do anything else, nothing happens. Not a reward, but not a punishment. Again, dogs don't really learn through punitive measures, which is why I don't use any force. Okay, so those are some examples of rules. Is the cat chewing on that or just nudging that? Okay. All right, so we went over a focus exercise. Remember, for the focus exercise, the first 7 days, we want to get to the point within 7 days maximum, but you should be able to get there faster. 1 second, 1 second. Don't hold it at your nose. So you want to get to the point where you can do 15 seconds from your nose to the dog, and he stares at you the whole time. You want to get to that point within 7 days. Practice this in different parts of your apartment. And once you get to the point where you can get to, pretty much you say focus, he looks at you and staring at you the whole time, then I would practice just right outside. So, or a place where you're outside, there's some distractions, but not the same amount of distractions as you would be on the street. And you want to, at this point, go back to 1 second, 1 second, but you go faster at this point. You might get up to the 15-second motion within a day or two. And tell each other where you're at. So if you're at like 50, you're at like 10, when you come back, you're not practicing at 11 when he's actually gotten up to 17 or 15 by the time while you're at work. The last stage is to do this when we're on a walk. Now, when we're doing the walk, we're going to do it differently. When we first do it, we put the treats here, and the dog has to look up away from the treats at us. In this case, the dog's going to walk and pay attention to anything but us in the walk. So we're going to say, focus, he looks up at us, and as we're walking, we're going to raise our nose and at first go back to 1 second, 1 second. So, and then again, walking a little bit further, there's nobody around. Focus, he looks up, 1 second, 1 second. Do that with about 12 treats on a walk, on a walk, excuse me. The next walk, we go to 2 seconds and 3 seconds. And every dog is unique. It depends on how quickly he gets it. But make sure that in the middle, he's not looking away and coming back to you. He needs to focus on you the whole 15 seconds. And you want to get to the point where you're 15 seconds on a walk while you're walking. Once you've achieved this, then you can start using it when we're on a walk and there's another dog that he wants to pay attention to, or somebody he doesn't like, or somebody he's reacted to. You say focus, he looks up at you, do the deal. Now you've effectively redirected him away from whatever he's focusing on. Now remember, if he is reactive, the best thing you do is increase his distance. And sometimes you have to move him around a corner, around something that blocks his visual acuity. And then help him practice the focus exercise. And remember, the way that I do the focus exercise can reduce stress in his body. So make sure that you're far enough away where he's no longer reactive to it, and then start practicing, do a bunch of those. And now instead of remembering I was mad at the car that screeched and almost hit us, I'm around the corner now and just focusing on my guardian and giving these treats in 15 seconds worth. Eventually you can get to the point where you can walk past things, and he says focusing, he's walking past another dog he's not reactive to dogs. He likes to play with dogs. And one of the things I recommend the guardians do is practice having him not play with every dog he sees. I know it's he doesn't have any aggression, it's not a problem, but he lunges towards them. And you get the wrong dog that's fearful and he lunges or runs straight up to them. That might cause the other dog to start a fight with him. And if he has a couple fights, that might make him an aggressive dog. So just teaching him good manners. As soon as you start pulling, I stop. So befriend the people in your neighborhood and just say, that's a beautiful dog, and then it's best to do this if you actually are away apart from your dog. You see, notice everybody's always the person's walking the dog at the same time. I never get a chance to compliment you on your dog. That's a great looking fox terrier. I've got the Dalmatian. Everybody will know who you are. Well, he just loves to play with every dog. I just wanted to pull up. Next time you're on a walk, would you mind if you hang out for a sec so we can teach my dog not to rush up to your dog, to walk up more calmly? And you'll find a lot of people that will help you. And then you just tell him to sit. You can use the focus exercise if you need to, and get him to look at you. Now he's looking away from the other dog, and then you take another step or two. But as soon as he starts pulling, you stop. Hold a treat out and ask him to come back. Try to avoid pulling him back with the leash, because that'll create a little bit of the malposition reflex or activate it. And eventually you get to the point where he just comes back to you, and then you take another step, and he learns, I can't rush up to another dog. I have to walk towards them very measuredly. I also went over a hand targeting exercise. That's a super duper easy one. If you guys practice that today and tomorrow and maybe the next day, you'll probably have it to the point where you go like this and he'll run across the room and put his nose to your hand. And you can use that as an alternative way of calling your dog. It's not what it's designed for. It's really designed if you want to take a picture of him and move him into a different position or get him to look a different direction. But once you do it, you can go like this and the dog will follow your hand around. People are like, you're like the master. Okay, now I'd also like the guardians to teach him some tricks or commands. The guardians and I have kind of the same philosophy where we just really want to have, whoops, there you go, buddy. You want to go in? I want my dogs to be well behaved. I don't need them necessarily well trained, but there is a correlation between a dog confidence level from learning at least 10 different commands or tricks. So I would try to teach him to stay, roll over, play dead. Go to YouTube. All these dog trainers will show you all their tricks on YouTube. And not only that, but they'll show you different ways of doing it. Sometimes one method the dog won't respond to. So look for a different method. They teach it a different way. Just make sure it's not a forceful way. And also keep in mind, when I was starting to show the guardians how to teach him to roll over, but we're a hardwood surface, and that's hard for dogs to kind of do stuff where they roll over because they can't get as much gripping. So you might want to go to the carpet store and look for like a $5 remnant piece that you can get him to practice on that. But sometimes we're right-sided or left-sided, just like we're right-handed or left-handed. Sometimes if you're trying to get the dog to roll over on the left side and you're not making progress, try to do the other direction. Sometimes you'll see, sorry if I probably shouldn't have let the cat back there. But basically, just find out what he likes to do. Now for the walk, remember, you keep him on the right side or left side, just so he just gets accustomed. Once he's pretty much walking there consistently, then you can start switching off again. But right now, it's just easier to give him one position. Now, I talked to the guardians about starting each walk with 10 treats. So I have 10 treats in my hand, and I take no more than 5 steps at first. Sometimes 1, sometimes 4, sometimes 3. And then the dog never knows. And every time I stop, I tell the dog to sit. Make sure you're coming all the way and you're delivering the treat behind the seam of your pants here so he's not drifting in front. And after a while, you'll stop and he'll just sit down automatically and look up at you. And he's also paying attention to us as opposed to paying attention to his environment. Remember, when you're walking, you stop to talk to somebody, tell him to sit. Give him something to do. And after a while, he'll just start, every time you stop, he'll just sit down expecting to get that treat for sitting. And the best time to treat a dog is inconsistently. So every once in a while, he never knows when he's going to get the treat. That motivates him to continue doing it. A lot of people ask me, when can I stop giving my dog treats? I'm like, well, do you work for free? And they're like, no. Well, why should your dog work for free? This is how we pay them. Now, you can also pay them with affection and all the rest of that stuff, but giving a treat every once in a while, once the dog knows how to do it, is always a great way to go about it. I also went over my 4 escalating consequences with the dog: hiss, stand up, march. So I really only went, I guess, and then leash time out. Now, if you forget how to do those, message me. I have videos for that as well. Trying to think, is there anything else that we covered that you want me to talk about? Don't worry if you remember something after this, just call or text me. I mean, I do this with all my clients, but I have a special affinity for Dalmatians, and so I want to help anytime you have any questions or problems. Even if it's not related to the stuff we went over, I can usually help you, and I usually have videos where I've taught dogs how to not bark or to not jump on the roof. I've seen dogs do a lot of crazy stuff. All right, well, this really high-energy basket case is Monza, and this is Monza's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.